All right. Hey, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast, where we bring you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jaime Oikle. Got a great episode for you. Got Christian Fischer, founder of the Disruptive Chef, longtime chef, now just consulting, also a podcaster. So we'll touch on that. So going to be good to dig in with you. Welcome, Christian.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
You know, we chatted just a little bit before this, and we were talking about his show, and so we'll talk about that. He's getting guests left and right, so he's probably hearing a lot of feedback in the industry, what's working, what's not. But what about your backstory, Christian? Where did you start? How'd you get in this crazy stuff?
So, as you can tell on my accent, I'm a native Austrian. So I grew up in Austria, and had my first restaurant at 19. I had 6 by the time I was 23. And then I had my first acquisition happen. Nestle came and Nestle bought our restaurant to make the restaurant concept for Stouffer hotels in the US. And I should have asked for more money, lessons learned. But it was my first acquisition. I worked for Nestle here in the US. They offered me a job for 20 years. I worked with them for 18. And then I worked for Compass Group for 18 years. I was the chief culinary officer. And then COVID happened, and like you, I said, hey, we need to do something else, and let's reach out and help other chefs in the industry. And we started this podcast, or we've started a form of it. And our podcast was simple. Come in, we talk to you, we help you, whatever we know, and we can help you. And hopefully you have some benefits in the end. And this was as simple as it is today. We about 160 episodes in. I told you this week we recorded 7 podcasts. So we're pushing out 2 podcasts a week. We have one on Monday, one on Thursday. And the idea with the Disruptive Chef is that we want to disrupt your thinking. And what we learned that most of the chefs, most of the people in the restaurant industry are one strategy or one person away to have a total different outcome of their life and a total different outcome of their career. So for us, the Disruptive Chef is really just that. We want them to look at their job differently and work harder on themselves than they work on their job in order to be and do what they want to do. And that's really the premise of the Disruptive Chef.
Yeah, let's dig in back to that, right back to that for a second. So you said disrupt their thinking, and you're talking about a chef or a restaurateur that gets very busy, gets in their own head, and doesn't break off from that. How do you get them to break away, and how do you disrupt their pattern?
So we learned that most of the commutes are 40 to 45 minutes. So our episodes are about 40 minutes. And so it's that if you drive to work or from work, you can listen to one episode. And so we bring people in we personally love. So what we did, we were about at 100 episodes. And so my team, I encouraged them and said, let's find some new people. And then each of us has to present 25 people back. So we had another 100 people. Yeah. And we came back, and then I had to sell my team on why I think my 25 people should be on a podcast. And 20 of them or whatever got it, and somebody got 18, somebody got 22. But it became the next level of what we want to do. And the greatest thing about that is there's so many great individuals in this marketplace, and you know this better than anybody. They're doing amazing stuff. Every day they knock it out of the park, but they have nobody there who tells their story and let us become that person. And it's amazing the people we have met. And I know the people we're going to meet, I know gonna be even better. So for us, it became the platform to really just promote them. And for us, the whole premise of the Disruptive Chef is we want to give them new ideas. We're going to give them new strategies. We want to give them new things to look at where they're saying, oh my God, I didn't think about this. I could do this. Or, oh, if I do this, I could do something totally different. So for me, it's as simple as that. We want to disrupt their thinking and bring some new innovative people to the marketplace, which we love. And so what we currently do, we do what we call ethical stocking. So we looking at people, we looking at what they currently do in the marketplace. How do they make an impact? We look at them, their Facebook page. then we have this conversation, and during that conversation we have something we call rapid fire question food service edition. It's just a little fun way for us to kind of make them humanized. But the cool thing about it is every single person we spoke to has an amazing way of how they do business, an amazing way how they're doing something totally different, and an amazing way of how they're looking at their restaurant. And that's really it, and that's what we
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
So awesome, first of all. But question for you, because I don't know when this will air, but it'll be towards the beginning of the year, right? We're sitting here in January, and 2025 New Year's resolution. Where are the trends? Where's things going? What have you been hearing over the last month or so in all these recordings about the prognostications for the upcoming year? Is it optimism? Is it pessimistic? What do you think?
And so it's really interesting. So we hear a little bit of both, but most of it is optimism, because there's a lot of great restaurants which do 100K a week. And I think you need to do today 100K a week in order to survive in the industry. And then also I see that a lot of the restaurateurs are going all in on consumer service. So they want to service their customers better than anybody else. They want to bring new dishes. And then on the same token, I see that a lot of people looking at it saying, hey, I have a restaurant. They just specialize in appetizer. There's a restaurant which does dessert first. Mind blown. And then there's a restaurant, you know what? They just do soups, and they do amazing soups differently. So for me, I think what's happening is a lot of the entrepreneurs which come into this space going hyper local, hyper specialized. And for me, I see more and more of that. And I feel that's really the way to be different. Because if you remember the old Italian restaurant, which used to be around for 60, 70 years, they don't exist anymore. Or they're not what they used to be. But there's this new Italian restaurant which does a few tricks differently. And I honestly feel that's the way to capture new customers. And that's not just a way of capturing the new customers and how to have them come back. It also changed. Now we're eating out 4 to 5 times a week. That's the average.
Yeah.
And if it's a lunch or a dinner, and it used to be 3. So I think there is a lot of hope that the industry is going to come back differently. And I look at my little town. Over the last year, we have a Panera came to town. We have a Starbucks came to town. We have, some other really famous sandwich concepts in town. They never existed here in town. So our little town, 60,000 people, is becoming a food mecca, because the next few towns had all of these concepts. They had all of the new restaurants, and now seeing them in town is absolutely amazing for me. And it also allows me to say, hey, you know what? The whole idea of having, a Starbucks in town, and then for me, I love to drive by. So I see Starbucks, I see Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts has a morning crowd, but then for the rest of the day, Starbucks is busier than Dunkin' Donuts. So for me, I think there's a room for all of that. And see, for me, it really comes down on 2 things. How do I really, measure up on the whole scale on financials? There's some people which will stay and go to Dunkin' Donuts forever, but I think there is disposable income. So a lot of the consumers in our town go to Starbucks in the afternoon. The Starbucks is open to 8 o'clock at night. And now it has a sandwich concept next door. And that sandwich concept is my understanding. I've only been there twice. It's now open, I think 2 months, 2.5 months, and it's doing phenomenally well. And for me, I think if you're asking me, what is the future of the restaurant industry? I think it's hyper localized and doing something much better than anybody else. And what I hear from a lot of our restaurateurs, that takeout used to be 1 or 2 a night. Now there's 15, 20 a night. So the takeout certainly took off in just really amazing ways.
I've been jotting down notes furiously while you're talking, but the word that I wrote when you were talking about the hyper local was niche, and nicheify, and you are seeing that. It used to be, like you said, very generic categories of restaurant. I'm going to open up a restaurant. I'm going to have everything under the sun. But yeah, you're seeing concept A goes very, very narrow.
Yeah.
very narrow, and smaller formats a lot of times in
Yeah.
these narrow
Yeah. Yeah.
places, and a lot of times quick service, and a lot of times mobile centric. Order on your phone, come pick it up, mobile to go.
I
Smaller
I love
platforms.
that. And what I see in my town, Jamie, is it's called Seven Moons. Seven Moons has 5 tables, 6 tables. They
Mhm.
do a ton of takeout, but the food is just absolutely amazing. Then we have Himalayan Gardens, and then and that place. By the way, they shut down the main dining hall. They just have one dining hall open. They do a ton of takeout, and that's an Indian place which does Himalayan style Indian food. It
Yeah,
was like, for me,
yeah,
Indian was Indian. I didn't know there was few things.
yeah, yeah.
And for me, that's what's really happening. And for me, as a restaurateur, I absolutely love that, because I think we need to do a lot more of that. And for me, I love driving down Main Street, because I see Seven Moons has been there now 4 or 5 years. The Indian restaurant is there now 7, 8 years, and they're doing really amazing work, and they're going super hyper, traditional to the stuff, and they're doing well.
Mm,
And yeah, I mean, you know it better than anybody. Food is everywhere. There's food in the grocery stores now. There's food
mhm.
in gas station. So you need to do it something differently. You not just need to do it lovely, and you need to serve your customer differently, and not just to service. You need to service the heck out of them, and the restaurants do an amazing job.
I wrote down. I want to go. Well, two things. One, you just said service, so I'm gonna stay there because this is a pet peeve of mine lately. So I was gonna ask more about differentiation and how folks think of that. But on the service side, I swear to God, 9 out of 10 times my experience is mediocre or worse at our place. And we do eat a lot. We're a family with 3 kids. We're running around. We eat out 4 or 5 times. My credit card bill can attest to this situation, which I just got this morning. So eating out a lot, but the service has been mediocre, and
Yep.
I continue to tip, but almost begrudgingly so. Especially 20% or more, which I would like to tip, but I don't have any problem doing that. But give me service that warrants that.
Yeah.
What are you hearing from folks about how this
Uh,
can be better?
by the way, this is also a pet peeve of mine. And what I hear from the customers, they expect high service. And if a restaurant doesn't provide the service, they do just takeout, because they want to have
Mhm.
still that food.
Mm,
So for me, if I drive down Main Street and I see the restaurants which do an amazing job takeout, you know
mhm,
what? They don't do that good of a job with customer service. And
mm,
then the restaurants where people dine in, they just knock it out of the park every single night, and
mhm,
just really wowing their customers. And for me, it's at the end of the day, it's really simple. Go and service the customer the way you want to be serviced.
mm,
And for me, I don't need somebody just over me and help me 100%. I want somebody who is attentive. I want somebody who listens to me. Want somebody when the food comes that, oh, who had this dish? They
mhm,
know
mhm,
exactly this person served that, ordered it. They know exactly how to serve it. They serve it the right way. So for me, those are the little pet peeves I have. And I don't want to sit forever at dinner. And I don't want to sit forever and when I ask for the check. So for me, those are the simple things. If you hit those, you have an amazing job, or you do an amazing job and you have an amazing business with people coming back. So for me, honestly, if I drive down Main Street, and I can tell you exactly who the restaurants are, which do great takeout, because they just missing that little piece, and they do exactly what you said.
mhm.
They just service the customer because they know the customer needs to come, and it's
Yeah.
not serviced the way I want to be serviced.
There are those small elements of service that you just hit on that yeah, when you miss them, it really feels it changes the whole aspect,
Mhm.
and it's not a lot. Like there's a good author, a guy we have a whole bunch of articles on, Shep Hyken does customer service training, and one of the phrases he uses in there, he's like, it's not like you have to give outstanding service, like it's like not like Ritz Carlton every day, but if you can be consistently above average,
Mhm.
you're in the great category, because most people are getting average all day long. So when they see above average and you're consistently above average, that's all you need to do. That we're not setting the
Yeah.
bar way up here. We're just moving up a little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit, a little bit.
I
But
I love that. And we have this one restaurant in town, and sorry I speak so much about it, my town, but for me, um, when I walk in, I know there's five people gonna say hello to me. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's the coolest thing ever,
Mm-hmm.
because they recognize that I have the choice to come in. They have now a separate station where they do takeout, and they have a lot of people dining in. They're just
Yeah.
doing a really good job with feeling you being heard. And that's for me, number one. If I go into a restaurant, I want to make sure they appreciate that I come, because
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am the diner. I have the choice I can go anywhere I choose to. That they will service the heck out of me, and not in a way that it becomes overpowering. Because for me, I think there is a skill of having service just perfect, where they are attentive to you, and food doesn't sit around forever. So just the little things. And for me, what they do really, really well, they do dessert. So for me, that
Mm-hmm.
particular place, what I love about them, they come in and say, hey, how was the entree? I was like, oh, it was so good. It was so good. And they said, hey, are you ready for our dessert special, or would you like to see the dessert card? You have a dessert card, and it's so old fashioned. And they roll out this card. The stuff doesn't look dry. It doesn't look old. It doesn't look like it's been there for a week. And then for me, that makes all the difference. And it's this little thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't want to, but can I have the creme brulee?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's for me, it's love, because when they bring out the card, the first thing for me is like, oh my god, they're bringing out a card, it's gonna be there for all day. It looked so fresh. I'm not sure how to do it, how often they replace it at night, but
Yeah.
it's amazingly done. And so for me, originally we just recently went there, five of us, and I wanted to do dessert because I was the guest of honor. So I was like, if I eat, maybe somebody else. Oh, nobody's going to have to. Oh, then I'm not going to have dessert, but I have the card come. Every single person on the table had dessert, because I was like, oh my God,
Oh.
this looks amazing.
Yeah.
And for me, is the card is an old-fashioned idea, but the stuff looks so great. And the guy had little things on the side. Hey, would you like some berries on it? Would you like some sauce on it? And this was awesome. He just didn't bring a dessert. He kind of plated it for you right there up front. It was actually really cool. And for me, I'm not a big fan of dessert cards, but they're doing it right. So there's a way of doing it, and there's a way of doing it right.
Well, first of all, dessert is a big profit center. So people can get, imagine selling four desserts to a table. That's incredible. But what usually happens when it comes to dessert is the server will say something like this, and it'll be an assumptive no. It's almost embarrassing. You don't want dessert, do you? You guys are too full, right? Instead of and or it'll be like, hey, here's some desserts. Are you interested?
Oh,
Like,
it's so I love that, because the guy we had came out and he said, "Oh, you guys want to see the dessert card?" And he said, "You better be ready to be bought." I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna be tough."
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He comes, the stuff looks great, and then he said, "I am. Look at me. I've been gnashing on this all day. The chef just made this new strudel." I was like, "He made strudel?"
Yeah.
And so I was like, I have to. And listen, it wasn't great, but I loved the cream. So the cream, he had whipped cream, but the whipped cream had cherry flavor in it. So you could have it with cherry flavor in it, or you could have it with lime in it. I was like, this is freaking awesome. And then he had some other toppings with it, and everybody, so out of the five people, three of them had the strudel because I had it. They
Yeah.
had all different topics on it because they loved the way he was topping it. And it was just the way he explained it and said, oh, the chef made it today.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it for me, it makes all the difference. So I love what you said, but
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. If somebody says, oh, you guys you want to have this to go, I'm sure you don't have room for dessert.
Yeah.
And
That's
so,
exactly.
by the
It
way,
happens. It happens. It happens.
the amazing thing was, so we having dessert. Four out of them had coffee drink to go with it, and
Uh-huh.
then one person had a coffee drink, and he had another drink, some shot, whatever he did afterwards. They would have lost out of a nice way of revenue, because there's five desserts in there. What they had four coffees, and they had the after dinner drink. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that's the way to do this right. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that server alone made his money and more just over dessert. And it was great the way he plated it. He did ladies first, just really, really well done. and this was a young guy. So for me, I always tell, if you want great dessert, you need to go there. The food is good; it's not great, but the dessert is out of this world, and they do a good job. So amazing job.
Listen, I didn't think we would stay so long on this, but I'll stay for another second. Is they did number of things correctly, right?
Yep,
The storytelling behind the dessert, talking
I
like
love
that
that.
brings it to life versus just saying some bland name. So that was a big deal. And what if restaurants are listening to this, remember this. it, we're already sitting in your restaurant. We're a captive audience. We're here to spend money. It's just how much of my money are you going to take?
Yep,
And so if you offer the desserts and five desserts, four coffees, and a shot, that's incredible. If you offer that, if you time it right, if you bring me the extra beer, if you bring me the dessert, that is just money that's going to go to your bottom line.
I love.
I'm here. My credit card's going to
Mhm.
run. It's just make the experience enjoyable. You have me in there. Take advantage of the captive audience, and
Love
if
that.
not,
I
you're
absolutely
missing
love that.
a lot of opportunities. But let's go to kind of back of house stuff for a second. What are you hearing financial wise? It's a tough business, right? Being
Yeah.
profitable. There's so many pieces of it. The costs continue to go up. Wages continue to go up. What are some of the key things you're hearing lately?
So everybody is worried about charging the little extra. So if you have
Hmm.
a special steak, uh, you should charge extra because it is
Hmm.
different. And then also for me, it's just really simple. Do appetizers right.
Hmm.
And there's one restaurant we as a family go to, it's up in West Hartford. And when we go to that, is they come and they say, "Oh, you guys gonna love today's appetizer." Oh, and then
Hmm.
you got me hooked because it's not just whatever's on the menu. They're doing specials just similar as they're doing for dinner, and they always do a really good job in selling the appetizers. And by the way, the appetizers are very reasonable. So for me, it's
Hmm.
one of those things. They're not big, it's not an entree, but it's an appetizer. And for me, every single person of my family has that appetizer because they love that. They do a really
Yep.
good job. And then, so for me, I was like, I'm sitting there. Oh my God, I have an extra drink because I have an appetizer. Okay. Because that's just the way kids are. So you have a separate drink when you have your entree. And if they do a good job at, for dessert, you hit me with drinks 3 to 4 times. You know
Hmm.
what? You will have revenue you didn't have before. And you said it earlier. For me, I love what you said because for me, it's it's not just a business, it's a skill. And you need to have one skilled person which loves dessert and he needs to sell the dessert. So for me, that person at the restaurant, he loves dessert. And he said, we should all start with dessert first. And he says, I'm not a big appetizer guy. I love dessert. And so he's selling dessert. And so what I feel a lot of restaurants need to do and that they need to do more of, if you have a guy and that person doesn't like plant-based, don't have him be the plant-based guy. Don't have him be the plant-based server because they will not sell it. If you have a guy which loves plant-based, say, hey, if you want to stay plant-based and have the day a separate dish, oh, there's this appetizer I have. It's plant-based, it's
Hmm.
absolutely delicious.
Hmm.
And for me, that's for me is the difference. And we haven't had this conversation, but for me, it's really simple. Are you an order taker or are you a server? Because for
Yep.
me, there's a distinct difference. And if you're a server and you entertain me and you tell me about the meal, I will buy a lot more than when you're just a server.
Yeah, unless I don't know if you've connected with my buddy Roger Bodwin yet or not from Restaurant Rockstars, but when I interview Roger, we talk about the order taker phenomenon and where that
Mhm.
goes and all the opportunity that you're missing. And there's a lot of content on our site around that topic itself. And it's a big deal. It's a difference between being profitable and not. What your staff does. And you don't want order takers.
Yeah.
You want salespeople. You want salespeople. All right. So the sales component, that's a big part of the financials.
So,
Obviously
so
money
that's
in,
another thing.
start with the money
Yeah.
in, and then how do you hold on to that money? What are people doing
Yeah.
with
So for
costs?
me, we talked about what are some of the chatter here. So there's really three things. The first thing is they are afraid to charge up. But I think if you
Mhm.
do it the right way, absolutely, you're allowed to charge up. The second thing is that, you know what, our industry is not really known for longevity. So there's a lot of chefs and a lot of people worried about, hey, how long is this gonna work here? You know, this is my third job this year, because the average food service worker changes jobs 4 times a year. So for me, that's a huge thing. So you need to do the right thing by your customers, but you also need to do the right thing by your employees. If you have good people, hold on to that. And the final thing is, for me, is around education. There's so many people which working in the food industry, they didn't go to a professional school, or they didn't come from a professional school. So for me, teaching them about food on a daily basis is a huge thing, and it goes a long way. And all it takes, we call it 5 minutes a day. And the 5 minutes thing could be really simple. Hey, let me tell you how you properly do food cost. Hey, let me tell you how this, and this works. Hey, let me tell you how you do this. But it's also, hey, let's take 5. Let's clean up the kitchen. Everybody, let go what you need to do. We have 5 minutes. Let's clean up the place, and let's go out there and knock the customers out of the park. And those basic things is what's missing for me on every food service, or in an average food service. Today, customers have choices. I can get anybody's food delivered to my house. Okay, number one. The second thing is, if I go out and I do that 20% tip because I'm a 20% like you, I want to have good service. And if I don't have good service, I come there once. The next time I take takeout. And so for me, and then the final thing is, how is the atmosphere working around all of that? So I love this. It's a Chinese restaurant. I love to go there for lunch, to bring food here for the office. I don't like going there for dinner, because they're playing 70s, 80s music in a Chinese restaurant. And I was like, no, can you play something else? And it's the little things which I honestly feel make the difference of a traditional custom service, of great customer service, or if you knock it out of the park. And if I go to a Chinese restaurant, I don't want to hear Diana Ross, So for me, play Chinese food, because I'm here for the Asian experience. So for me, those are the little things. And if you do that really well, the rest is a piece of cake, and people will come back.
Let's go to the training piece in 5 minutes a day. So it's not overwhelming. You're not asking the world of people to train, and there's so many 5-minute topics. I'm sure you still get resistance from chefs and operators. I don't have time. My people, they don't want to hear it. But any success stories in conveying how to do that well? Is it a certain time of day before shift? Pulling people aside? What are ways to make sure that happens?
So I love, by the way, that's a really good question, because for me, you can do the 5 minutes a day with pre-meal. Pre-meal takes 15 minutes if you do it right. Okay. So if you have 15 minutes and you do this, and you have the right people come, I'd rather have you do this 3 times a day and do 5 minutes. Because with 5 minutes, you can teach him something really simple. Hey guys, the reason I'm doing this is XYZ. The reason, hey, we need to do this is because XYZ. Whatever it is, the short thing people will remember a lot more. And then it helps the kitchen become neat, and helps the kitchen to become clean. The difference I see with staff working in a clean kitchen versus a dirty kitchen is massively different. And it's this little thing you do 5 minutes a day. And so for me, the 5-minute thing, I think everybody should do it. And even if you do it just twice a night or 1 time a night, it doesn't really matter. And it also takes the pressure off the staff, because if they do 200, 300 covers a night, if you do in the middle of this a 5 minute, everybody take 5 minutes, I just sit there. I was like, oh, I don't need to do anything for 5 minutes. So for me, it's the one thing where you can reset. It's the one thing where you can highlight, hey, for the first, service, hey, everybody give it a hand to Chef. Chef knocked it out of the park. And Susan is just amazing today. Yeah. And it's those little things for me, which makes the difference of being in the restaurant industry and being a restaurateur. Because if you are a real restaurateur, you know all of that, and you do this consistently. And if you do this consistently, you don't need to worry about people leaving jobs 4 times a year. And I'm doing this here today with my business. we inventing the business, and we want to do 40% business after business is going to be employee owned. Because for me, I love the people I have working for me, and I want them to have skin in the game, and it changes everything.
Absolutely, 100%. Staff recognition was really cool. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, recognizing your staff, we don't do it enough. Everybody, just in life, we don't say thank you enough to people.
Yeah.
We don't applaud people. We're very quick to criticize, but we're not quick to compliment people on their back. So that can be a big part of culture. That can be a big part of retaining staff. What are some other retention, not tricks is not the right word, but what are some other retention strategies you've seen be successful?
So for me, it's really successful. Was something I always applied was like, I don't look at one night or 3 nights. I look over a long period of time. And sometimes if somebody doesn't perform for a week or 2, you could say, hey, you do this one more time, you write you up and you're out. Or you could say to him, hey, what is going on? This is not like you. How can I help? Maybe come to me in after dinner service, or hey, if you need to take a break now, take a break now. But tell me what's going on, because I want to help you. That changes the mind totally. And for me, people have stuff going on. Work is not something which is on the forefront of them. So if you have somebody who does an amazing job, and then for the last 2 weeks, he fell off the wagon, have that conversation. Ask him what's going on. Because sometimes it's something really simple. Or maybe sometimes it's, hey, how about I take a day off and I pay you the 8 hours. Just don't worry about it. Go out there and do the right thing, or take care of that thing. And for me, that alone makes all the difference. And for me, we practice this today. I love what you said earlier. We are conditioned that we don't do a good job in highlighting people which do really, really well. Especially the people which are outperformers, and they do great all the time.
Right.
But everybody loves to hear, hey, let's give Susan an awesome job. Hey, Mackenzie just knocked it out of the park today. Whatever the server is, you know what the server is? You've been killing it tonight. And how often do you see this happening in places? And for me, we are in that restaurant industry and any service industry. We want to be recognized for what we do, and having the chef, having the owner, having somebody recognize what you do, it just makes you think, hey, I'm in this. They love what I do. I'm part of this team. I hate the term work family, because you will never be family, because the way I treat my family is a lot different than I treat anybody at work. But for me, work needs to stay work, but I want to recognize what you do because it's important to me. I want to recognize what you do is because it's important to our clients. I want to recognize what you do because it makes a huge difference in my organization. And it's as simple as that. And I actually have it right there on my door. I have here, recognize somebody today. And for me, there's days I walk by, I totally see it, and then I was like, oh my God, I didn't recognize. But doing this, but step back. So for me, if we do a family meal twice a week. Otherwise, people run out for lunch, but family meal twice a week. And we do family meal. We don't talk about business. Hey, what's going on with you? Hey, what's holding you up from scaling? Hey, what is something you think about, or what keeps you up at night? The little things on understanding who they are as people, and they don't need to share personal stuff. That's not the intent with that. But I want them to know when they're here, they're being supported by me and everybody else in the organization. When they're here, they're part of a group, and we perform because we want to have a certain task or a certain goal done. And I'm recognizing that you are a strategic piece of the whole puzzle. So for me, the reason we do what we do and we're so successful at it is because of you, and because of everybody sitting to the right and the left of you. And that's for me. I have a whole line of things there. And for me, those is one of the things we need to do more of. And I don't do always a good job. And for me, there's days I was like, oh my God, all week I didn't recognize anybody. And then I do an
Yeah.
extra, hey, we do family meal. What does everybody want? And I just sit there. And then some days I just sit in every time I says, hey, I haven't talked to you, Mackenzie, or week. What's going on with you?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or, hey, Devin, I just, when you hear, you light up the office because your sense of humor and the way you look at work is very uplifting. And the little things, it doesn't need to be great things,
Yeah.
it needs to
Yeah.
be little things
Yeah.
and it needs to hit the spot.
And
And yeah,
specific details too,
I love that.
not just,
Yeah,
hey, great
yeah,
job. Just be specific.
yeah.
And that sounds like you're doing that. And you know what the cost for doing those shout outs and those thank yous are? Zero. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost anything to smile. It doesn't cost anything to say a nice word. So
Mhm.
use that to your advantage. And there's a story from this book, and it's dog-eared because I read it every day. A little piece from it, How to Win Friends and Influence People,
I
classic book. But there's a
love
story
that.
in
I
here
love
that
that.
echoed what you were talking about, where there was a worker who traditionally had been a good worker, but had just kind of
Mhm.
fallen off, had fallen behind, wasn't producing as good as he used to. And all it took was the boss to say, hey, you've been great in the past. What's going on right now? Oh, yeah, exactly. Same thing. Stuff has been going on with the family. I just got a little distracted. I didn't realize I'd fallen off. And sometimes
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't. They get in the habit. And so, boom. And then the story goes on, obviously, to the point is from that point forward, he was like, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, I
Great.
love that. And sometimes people don't recognize that they doing something, I don't want to say wrong, but they off and that
Hmm.
it's being recognized and they notice it. So for me, having that conversation, hey, is everything okay with you?
Hmm.
Is a lot different than, hey, this is the third time this week you did this. If you do it a fourth time, you're out.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not, it's hard enough to get really good people. So go out of your way and make sure that they, are being serviced, just like you do in a restaurant.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground. We're coming up on 35 plus minutes, so I want to give you a chance for parting thoughts, and I think maybe we'll bring you back on in a few months down the road because there's only a zillion more topics we could talk about. But for today, we covered a lot. Anything we didn't hit, you definitely want to make sure people know about.
No, I listen. If people want to know more about the Disruptive Chef, go to disruptivechef.com or go to christianjfisher.com. You could find all the stuff you need to find, and we would love for you to come and become part of our family as they come and be family of you.
Yeah, excellent. Well, what about you threw out quotes. Anything else you'd want to share? Any words of wisdom? Parting quote? A
So
favorite book?
I
A recommendation?
have. So if you guys ever or any of your listeners ever heard of Wayne Dyer, I have the
Mhm.
story. My wife and
Mhm.
I wanted to go and see Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
they in New York City, both of them at the same time.
Yep.
We going in New York City, everything goes wrong. So we park outside of the city. We take a cab in, and I didn't even tell him. I said, "Hey, there's I forgot what the big guy is, but it's the show." He said, "Oh, no, exactly where to go." I didn't talk to him anymore. My wife and I get ready. We go in, and I was like, oh shit, it's Wayne Dyer. It's not Tony Robbins. And the usher comes and said, oh, thanks for being 20 minutes late. He walks us all the way up front. We sit in up front. And I was like, oh my God. So then Wayne Dyer comes and say hello. What is your name? Oh, Christian. Oh, we all
Oh,
Christians. Yeah.
geez. Yeah.
Everybody, can you look at Christian and say hello? And by the way, this is what you look like when you don't manage yourself. Right. And I was like mortified.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we sitting up front. And then, so for sitting up front and being part of this thing, he invited us to his lunch. So we bought with him of
Mm,
lunch.
mm,
And he said something I'm still quoting today. And it goes like this: when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
mhm,
And he
mhm,
said it a few times that day. And I was like, that's such a cliche. But for me, it became what makes me do what I do today, what drives me, because when you change the way you look at things you look at change. And for me, this is massive. And for me, I'm a big fan of this. I have every book he ever written.
mm.
But if you are in a tough place, or anybody of your listeners is in a tough place, just change the way you look at things, because the things you look at change.
Good one. Yeah, excellent stuff. I don't I know the name. I don't have any of his stuff. I do have some of Tony Robbins stuff. He's terrific as well.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to him, he's both inspirational but also very good with financial stuff and everything you can imagine. But and yeah, Tony Robbins. So all right, good stuff there, Christian. I appreciate you sharing that, folks. Christian Fischer of Disruptive Chef. Find them on the web at I have christianjfisher.com, but you said also at disruptivechef.com.
If you go to Christian J. Fischer, you find all the stuff and you will find all of the other stuff. If you look up the Disruptive Chef, you find our YouTube channel, we are on TikTok and all of that stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I did. I landed on both. And so we'll have those links and the spelling on the site, but definitely if you type in Disruptive Chef, you will bump into Christian's stuff. Appreciate that. For more great stuff, restaurant marketing and service, people, tech tips, and more, stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. In the meantime, do us a favor as far as our podcast, like us, comment, share, like just wherever you are right now. Take a minute, rate it, review it. That helps us grow, and we appreciate the feedback. Christian, good stuff, man. We'll be in touch.
We appreciate it. Thanks for letting me be part of this podcast. And to your listeners, you know what? They need to do a lot more of what they do for you. So I love your show, and thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.